Sunday dinner was supposed to be peaceful, but the moment my father put down his fork, I knew my life was about to change. He didn't even look guilty. He just looked at me across the table and said it casually like he was talking about the weather. "Sloane, we gave your wedding fund to Mia. She deserves a real wedding. You're simple. You'll be fine with something small." I froze. The room went silent. I looked at my mother, but she just kept eating her salad. I looked at my younger sister Mia. She was smirking. She knew. She had known all along. I felt a sharp pain in my chest. It wasn't about the money. It was the message. They were telling me I didn't matter. I was the invisible daughter. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. I was used to taking the scraps. But then the chair beside me scraped loud against the wood floor. Grant stood up. "My fiancé is a quiet man. He drives an old sedan. My parents think he is just a boring office worker with no money. They think he is weak." They were wrong. Grant didn't shout. His voice was ice cold. He placed his hand on my shoulder and looked my father dead in the eye. "Sir, you just made a very big mistake," Grant said. "Should I tell everyone at this table what I actually do for work, or do you want to fix this right now?" The smirk vanished from Mia's face. And for the first time in my life, the storm wasn't hitting me, it was coming for them. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me, where in the world are you watching from? To understand why that Sunday dinner broke me, you have to understand where I came from. You have to understand what it is like to grow up in a house where you take up space, but nobody actually sees you. I grew up in a standard suburban house in Ohio. From the outside, we looked like a perfect family. My dad, Eric, was a manager at a logistics firm. My mom, Dana, worked part-time at a boutique. And then there were the two daughters, me, Sloane, and my younger sister, Mia. There is a role for everyone in a family like ours. Mia was the star. She was the loud one. She was the one who needed help with her homework. She was the one who needed a ride to dance class, then cheerleading, then the mall. She was the one who cried when things didn't go her way and my parents would rush to fix it. And then there was me. I was the easy child. That's what my mother always told her friends. "Oh, Sloane, we never have to worry about Sloane. She's so independent, she's fine on her own." They said it like it was a compliment. When I was 10, I thought it was a good thing. I thought being low maintenance made me good. It took me years to realize that low maintenance just meant low priority. I remember my 12th birthday. It fell on a Tuesday. I came downstairs in the morning, excited for pancakes or maybe a present wrapped on the table. The kitchen was empty. My mom had left a note on the counter. Mia forgot her tap shoes, had to run them to school. "Happy birthday, honey. Cereal is in the cupboard." I ate my cereal alone. When I went to school, nobody called. When I came home, the house was chaotic because Mia had scraped her knee at recess and my dad was putting a bandage on it like she had lost a limb. They ordered pizza that night, not because it was my birthday, but because Mom was too tired from the drama to cook. They forgot to buy a cake. My dad put a candle in a donut he had left over from work. "Make a wish, Sloane," he said, smiling like he was Father of the Year. I wished to be someone else. As we got older, the difference became about money, but it started with attention. When I turned 16, I got my license. I had saved up $3,000 from babysitting and mowing lawns since I was 12. I asked my dad if he would match my savings so I could buy a used Honda. He sighed deeply, rubbing his temples. "Sloane, money is tight right now. The roof needs repairs. We just can't do it. You're a smart girl. You'll figure it out." "Keep saving." I nodded. I didn't argue. I kept working. I bought a rusty sedan 6 months later entirely with my own money. It had no air conditioning and the radio didn't work, but it was mine. 3 years later, Mia turned 16. I was home from college for the weekend. We were in the driveway. My dad walked out with a set of keys dangling from his finger. He wasn't rubbing his temples. He was beaming. "Happy birthday, princess," he shouted. There in the driveway sat a brand new Volkswagen Jetta. It had a red bow on top. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I looked at my dad. "I thought money was tight," I whispered. He didn't even look at me. He was too busy watching Mia scream and jump up and down. My mom walked over and patted my arm. "Don't be jealous, Sloane. It's ugly. Mia needs a safe car. She's not as capable as you. You know, she gets anxious driving. We need to make sure she's safe." That was the excuse for everything. Mia was fragile, so she needed the best. I was strong, so I deserved nothing. My resilience became their excuse to neglect me. When I applied for college, I got into a great state school. I sat my parents down to talk about tuition. "We're so proud of you," my mom said, "but we really can't help with tuition. Your father's investments are down. You can get loans, right, or scholarships. You're so smart, you'll find a way." So I did. I worked 2 jobs while taking a full course load. I worked the morning shift at a coffee shop from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., then went to class, then worked at the library until closing. I ate ramen noodles. I skipped parties because I couldn't afford the cover charge. I graduated with honors and I also graduated with debt, but I did it. 2 years later, Mia went to college. She didn't have the grades for a state school, so she went to a private liberal arts college that cost 3 times as much as mine. My parents paid for it, full ride, they paid for her tuition, they paid for her dorm. They sent her a monthly allowance for clothes and socializing. I found out when I came home for Thanksgiving and saw the bill on the counter. I was shaking when I asked my mom about it. I was working 2 jobs, I said, my voice trembling. I am still paying off loans. You told me you had no money. My mom sighed, that same dismissive sigh she had used my whole life. Sloan, please don't make this about you. Mia isn't like you, she can't handle the stress of a job and school. She would crumble, we have to support her so she can succeed. You're naturally a survivor, you don't need us to hold your hand. I didn't need you to hold my hand, I said. I needed you to be fair. Life isn't fair, my dad chimed in from the living room. Stop counting other people's money, Sloan, it's unbecoming. Other people's money, that's what he called their support. I stopped coming home as much after that. I stayed in the city where I worked, I built a life. I got a job as a marketing coordinator. It wasn't a huge salary, but it was mine. I rented a small apartment. I bought my own furniture. I paid my own bills. I learned to be invisible. I learned that if I had a problem, a flat tire, a bad breakup, a flu that kept me in bed for 3 days, I had to solve it myself. Calling home only meant hearing about Mia's latest drama. Mia's boyfriend broke up with her. My parents flew her to Florida to heal. Mia failed a class. My parents hired a private tutor. Mia got a speeding ticket. My dad paid it and told her to be careful. I dated a few guys, but I kept them away from my family. I didn't want them to see how small I became when I walked into that house. I didn't want them to see me standing in the kitchen washing dishes while everyone else watched TV. I didn't want them to see my mom criticize my hair or my job while praising Mia's new haircut. I became an expert at hiding my pain. I wore it like a heavy coat that I never took off. I told myself I didn't care. I told myself I was better off. I told myself that independence was the greatest prize of all, but late at night in my quiet apartment I would cry. I didn't cry because I was poor. I didn't cry because I had to work hard. I cried because I wanted a mom who worried about me. I wanted a dad who wanted to buy me a car, not because I needed it, but because he wanted to see me smile. I wanted to matter. I was 26 years old and I was still that little girl sitting at the kitchen table with a donut and a candle, wishing for a different life. The funny thing about being invisible is that you get very good at observing. I watched people. I watched how families interacted in restaurants. I watched fathers holding their daughters' hands. I watched mothers listening intently to their children's stories. I craved that connection so badly it felt like a physical hunger. But I never expected to find it. I thought love was something you had to earn through hard work and silence. I thought if I was just good enough, quiet enough, and successful enough, eventually someone would notice me. My parents never did. But then I met Grant and I realized that being seen was terrifying, because when someone truly sees you, you can't hide anymore. And I had been hiding for a very long time. I met Grant Lawson on a rainy Tuesday evening in November. It wasn't at a bar or a party. It was at a free financial literacy workshop at the local community center. That sounds boring, I know, but that was my life. I was obsessed with stability. Because I had no safety net, no parents who would bail me out if I failed, I needed to know everything about money. I needed to be safe. I arrived early and took a seat in the second row. I had my notebook open, a pen ready. I was wearing my work clothes, a gray skirt and a simple blouse. I looked like what I was, a tired marketing assistant trying to get ahead. Then a guy sat down next to me. He was wet from the rain. He was wearing a faded flannel shirt, jeans that had fraying hems at the bottom, and heavy work boots. His hair was messy, dark, and a little too long. He looked like he had just come from a construction site or maybe a hiking trail. He sat down and patted his pockets. He frowned. He turned to me. He had kind eyes. They were a warm, mossy green. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I forgot a pen. Do you have an extra one?" I always had extra pens. Being prepared was my survival mechanism. I handed him a cheap blue ballpoint pen. "Keep it," I said. "Thanks," he smiled. It was a nice smile, not flashy, just genuine. "I'm Grant Sloan." We didn't talk much during the workshop. The instructor was talking about compound interest and Roth IRAs. I took frantic notes. Grant just listened. He leaned back in his chair, his arms crossed, watching the screen. He didn't write anything down. At the end of the class, I was packing up my bag when he turned to me again. "You take good notes," he said. "I have to," I replied. "I don't want to be broke when I'm 60. He laughed. It was a dry, soft laugh. "That's a good goal. Hey, since I stole your pen, can I buy you a coffee? There's a diner across the street. It's cheap." I hesitated. I usually didn't say yes to strangers, and honestly, he looked poor. That sounds terrible, I know, but I had spent my whole life being afraid of poverty. I worked so hard to look professional, to look put together. Grant looked like he struggled. His car, which I saw later in the parking lot, was a rusty Toyota Corolla that looked older than me, but there was something about his voice. It was calm, it was steady. It reminded me of the kind of stability I craved. "Okay," I said, "just coffee." We went to the diner. We sat in a booth with cracked red vinyl seats. The coffee was terrible, burnt and watery, but we stayed for 3 hours. We didn't talk about jobs or status. We talked about life. I found myself telling him things I never told anyone. I told him about growing up in Ohio. I told him about the donut birthday cake. I told him about working 2 jobs in college. He didn't interrupt. He didn't look at his phone. He just watched me. He listened. "That sounds lonely," he said simply after I finished a story about my graduation. I looked at him surprised. Most people said, "Wow, you're so strong," or "Good for you for hustling." Grant didn't say that. He saw the truth. "It was lonely," I admitted, my voice catching in my throat. "I get that," he said. "I grew up quiet too. My folks were complicated. I learned to keep my head down, do the work, don't make noise." I felt a click in my chest, connection. We started dating. It was a slow, simple courtship. We didn't go to fancy restaurants. We went for long walks in the park. We cooked dinner at my tiny apartment, usually spaghetti or tacos. We rented movies from the library. Grant was a simple man. He lived in a small, 1-bedroom apartment above a garage. His furniture was mismatched. He wore the same 5 flannel shirts. He drove that rattling Toyota. I assumed he was struggling financially. He never said what he did for work exactly. He just said he worked in tech support and did some freelance coding. I figured he was getting by just like me. I fell in love with him because he was kind. When I had the flu, he came over and made me soup from scratch. He sat by my bed and read books to me until I fell asleep. When my car broke down again, he didn't just offer to pay for it. He came over with a toolbox and fixed the alternator himself in the driveway in the freezing cold. He showed up. That was the magic of Grant. He was just there. For my birthday, 6 months after we met, he didn't buy me a car. He bought me a first-edition copy of my favorite book. It must have cost him $100. I knew that was a lot for him. I cried when I opened it. "Why are you crying?" he asked, wiping a tear from my cheek with his thumb. "Because you remembered," I sobbed. "I only mentioned this book once 3 months ago. I remember everything you say, Sloan," he said. That was the moment I knew I wanted to marry him. I didn't care that we would probably be renting apartments forever. I didn't care that we would have to clip coupons. I had found someone who saw me. My parents, of course, were unimpressed. I brought Grant home for Easter. It was a disaster. My dad asked Grant what he drove. When Grant said, "A 2005 Corolla," my dad actually laughed. "Good luck getting that up the highway," my dad sneered. My mom asked Grant where he bought his clothes. "It's a very rustic look," she said, wrinkling her nose. Mia ignored him completely. She sat at the table texting her boyfriend, who drove a BMW and worked for his dad's real estate company. Grant didn't get angry. He sat there, calm and polite. He answered their rude questions with short, simple answers. He held my hand under the table the whole time. On the drive back to the city, I apologized. "I'm so sorry," I said. "They are awful. They judge everyone by their bank account." Grant shrugged. "It's okay, Sloan. I don't care what they think. I only care what you think." "I think you're wonderful," I said. "Good," he smiled. "That's enough for me." 1 year passed. It was our first anniversary. Grant told me to dress up. "I want to take you somewhere nice," he said. I put on my best dress, a black dress I had bought on sale at an outlet store. Grant picked me up in his Corolla. But he wasn't wearing flannel. He was wearing a suit. It was a nice suit. It fit him perfectly. He looked handsome. Different. He drove us to the city center, to one of those high-end steakhouses I had only ever looked at from the sidewalk. "Grant," I whispered as the valet took his rusty car, "we can't afford this. The appetizers are like $30. "Trust me," he said. "I've been saving." We sat down. The waiter brought us champagne. Grant looked nervous. He was fidgeting with his napkin. "Sloan," he started, "there is something I haven't told you, something big." My stomach dropped. Was he married? Was he in debt? Was he going to jail? "What is it?" I asked, gripping the tablecloth. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He slid it across the table to me. It was a magazine article from a tech business magazine. The headline read, "The Quiet Coder. How Grant Lawson Sold His FinTech Startup for $45 million. I stared at the photo. It was Grant. He was wearing a hoodie, sitting in front of a computer, but it was definitely him. The article was dated 2 years ago. I looked up at him. My mouth was open. "I don't understand. This says $45 million. "Yes," he said softly, "but the car, the apartment, the tech support job. I do freelance coding because I like it," he said. "But I sold my company 3 years ago. I invested most of it. I live off the interest." "Why?" I asked. "Why did you hide it? Why did you let my dad make fun of your car? Why did you let me pay for half the groceries?" He reached across the table and took my hands. His palms were warm. "Sloan, listen to me. I have dated women before who found out about the money right away. And suddenly they became different people. They wanted things. They wanted the lifestyle. They didn't want me." He looked deep into my eyes. "I knew you were special the moment I met you. You were so real. You worked so hard. I needed to know that you loved me for Grant, the guy with the messy hair and the bad car, not Grant the millionaire. tears pricked my eyes. You lied to me for a year. I omitted the truth, he corrected gently. But everything else was real, the love was real, the fixing your car was real, the listening to you was real, and now that I know you love me when I have nothing, I want to give you everything. I sat back in the chair. It was a lot to process. My boyfriend, the man I thought was just scraping by, was wealthy, not just comfortable wealthy, but as I looked at him, I didn't see a rich man. I saw the guy who brought me soup. I saw the guy who held my hand while my parents insulted him. I do love you, I whispered. I loved you when I thought you were broke. I know, he smiled. And that's why you're the only person I trust. He pulled a small velvet box out of his pocket. I was going to wait for dessert, he said, but I can't wait anymore. Sloane Harper, will you marry me? I said yes. We spent the next few months planning, and this is where the trouble started. I told Grant I wanted a small wedding. I was used to being small. I was used to not asking for much. I wanted a vineyard wedding, just close friends, simple, beautiful. We can pay for it, Grant said. I can pay for the whole thing. The sky is the limit, but I had a stubborn streak. I wanted my parents to contribute just a little. Not because we needed the money, obviously Grant could buy the venue, but because I wanted them to act like parents. Years ago, when my grandmother died, she left a specific sum of money to my parents. It was earmarked for the girls' weddings. My mom had told us about it when we were teenagers. There was $20,000 for me and $20,000 for Mia. It was a promise, a rare promise of equality. I sat Grant down. I haven't told my parents about your money yet, I said. Why not? He asked. Because if they know you're rich, they will change. They will try to use you. They will suddenly act like they love me because I caught a big fish. I want to see if they will treat me right for me. Grant nodded slowly. A test? Yes, I said. I want to ask them for my wedding fund, the money Grandma left. It's the principle of it. I want to see if they will finally be fair. Grant squeezed my hand. Okay, we keep the secret a little longer. Let's see what they do. We drove to Ohio for Sunday dinner to announce our engagement. I was wearing a modest ring, a placeholder Grant had bought so we wouldn't raise suspicions. The real ring, a stunning diamond, was locked in our safe at home. We sat down at the table. The roast chicken smelled good. My dad was pouring wine. Mia was talking loudly about her recent trip to Cancun with her fiancé, Chad. I cleared my throat. Mom, Dad, Mia, I have some news, I said, beaming. Grant and I are engaged. I waited for the cheers. I waited for the hugs. My mom looked up from her plate. Oh, that's nice, honey. She took a sip of wine. My dad nodded. Congrats. So Mia, tell us more about the resort in Cancun. Is it 5 stars? My heart sank. That was it. 2 sentences. I pushed harder. We are planning a wedding for next fall. And I wanted to ask about Grandma's fund. I know there is money set aside for us. I'd like to use my share to put a deposit on a vineyard. The table went quiet. My dad put his fork down. My mom exchanged a look with Mia. Mia smirked. Well, my dad started, wiping his mouth with a napkin. And that brings us back to the moment where everything broke. That brings us back to the betrayal that ended my life as a daughter and started my life as a woman who fights back. The weeks leading up to that Sunday dinner were strange. I felt like I was walking on a wire. On one side, I had this massive secret. My fiancé was a multimillionaire. We could buy a castle in France if we wanted to. We didn't need anything from anyone. But on the other side, I was still the little girl who wanted her dad to be fair. I remembered the day my grandmother died. I was 19. She was the only person in the family who really looked at me. She used to squeeze my hand and say, "You're the quiet water, Sloane, you run deep." When her will was read, she was specific. She left money to my parents to pay off their house, but she set aside $40,000 specifically for her granddaughters. $20,000 for Sloane and $20,000 for Mia, the lawyer had read, to be given to them for their weddings so they may start their new lives with joy. It was a promise, it was written down, it was fair. For years, that money sat in an account my father controlled. I never asked about it. I never asked for help with rent or tuition or car repairs. I told myself that money is for my future. That is the one thing they can't take away from me. Now I was engaged. I started looking at venues with Grant. We found a beautiful, small vineyard about an hour from the city. It wasn't fancy. It had wooden tables, strings of lights, and rows of grapevines. It's perfect, I told Grant. It costs $5,000 to rent. The catering is reasonable. If I use Grandma's money, I can pay for the whole thing and still have money left over for a down payment on a house. Grant nodded. It's a good plan, Sloane, but remember, if they say no, I've got this. I know, I said, but I need them to say yes. I need them to honor Grandma's wish. While I was planning my small, quiet wedding, Mia was planning a circus. Mia had gotten engaged 3 months before me. Her fiancé, Chad, was a nice enough guy, but he was passive. He let Mia run the show, and Mia wanted the show to be huge. She called me almost every day to brag. Sloane, you won't believe the dress I found, she said on the phone one Tuesday. It's a Vera Wang. It costs $12,000. I almost dropped my phone. $12,000, Mia, that's a car. It's my special day, she snapped. Mom says I deserve to look like a princess. Plus, we're doing the destination wedding in Cancun. We're inviting 200 people. Everyone has to fly out. It's going to be a week-long party. How are you paying for all this? I asked. I knew Chad had a decent job, but he wasn't rich, and Mia worked part-time as a receptionist at a yoga studio. Oh, we're figuring it out, she said vaguely. Mom and Dad are helping, obviously. That word stuck in my throat. I went to visit my parents a week later to show them my ring. I drove up alone because Grant was working. I walked into the kitchen. My mom was sitting at the table with piles of bridal magazines. Mia was there, circling pictures with a red marker. Hey, I said. My mom looked up. Oh, hi Sloan, look at these flowers, peonies. Mia wants peonies, but they are out of season. We might have to import them from Holland. That sounds expensive, I said. It is, my dad grunted, walking in from the garage. He opened the fridge and grabbed a beer. But you only get married once, right? I held up my hand. The modest diamond ring caught the light. I wanted to show you the ring, I said. My mom glanced at it for a second. Very sweet, it's dainty, very practical, just like you. Thanks, I said, trying not to let the backhanded compliment sting. Grant and I were looking at dates. We're thinking October, a small vineyard wedding. Mia laughed. A vineyard? That's so rustic. Are you going to have like hay bales? No, I said sharply. It's elegant. It's simple. Well, don't pick October, Mia said, turning a page in her magazine. My bachelorette party is in October, and then I need a month to detox before the wedding in December. So October doesn't work for me. I stared at her. Mia, your wedding is in December. My wedding would be 2 months before yours. It doesn't affect you. It takes attention away, she said, pouting. This is my year. You can't just jump in and steal my year. I looked at my dad. Dad, do you think I'm stealing her year? He sighed and took a long drink of beer. Sloan, don't upset your sister. She's under a lot of stress planning this big event. Your thing is small. Maybe you can wait until next spring. Spread out the costs a bit. Spread out the costs. That was the first red flag. What costs? I asked. Grandma left the money. It's sitting there. 20 for me, 20 for Mia. It's already there. The room went suddenly quiet. My dad looked at my mom. My mom looked down at the magazine. Mia bit her lip, but she didn't look guilty. She looked like a cat that had just eaten the canary. We can talk about finances later, my dad said quickly. Not now. I'm tired from work. Let's just enjoy the afternoon. He walked out of the room, my stomach twisted. I knew that silence. I knew that look. It was the same look they gave me when they bought Mia the car. It was the look of people who had made a decision that was going to hurt me, and they just didn't want to deal with the fallout yet. I drove home that night with a heavy heart. They're going to screw me, I told Grant when I got back to our apartment. I can feel it. Grant was cooking stir-fry. He put the spatula down and hugged me. If they do, it's their loss, but we have to make them say it. We have to make them say it to your face. Why? I asked. Because you need to know, he said. You need to know exactly where you stand so you can finally walk away. He was right. I needed the truth. Even if the truth broke my heart, so we arranged the Sunday dinner, the dinner where everything would end. Sunday arrived. The sky was gray and heavy, threatening rain. It matched my mood perfectly. Grant drove us in his old Toyota. I was wearing a nice navy dress. Grant wore a clean button-down shirt and khakis. He looked presentable but humble. I was nervous. My hands were shaking in my lap. Just breathe, Grant said, placing his hand on my knee. Whatever happens, I'm right here. You are not alone this time. We pulled into the driveway. My parents' house looked the same as always, manicured lawn, fresh white paint. Mia's car was already there. We walked inside. The smell of roast beef and rosemary filled the air. It was a smell I associated with childhood, with family. For a second, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe they would smile and hand me a check and tell me they were happy for me. We sat down in the dining room. My dad sat at the head of the table. My mom was to his right. Mia and Chad were on one side, and Grant and I were on the other. The conversation started with small talk. The weather, the local football team. Chad's job at the real estate firm. Then my dad cleared his throat. He put his fork down. So, he said, looking at me, you mentioned the other day that you're looking at venues for this vineyard wedding. Yes, I said. I tried to keep my voice steady. We found a place. We need to put a deposit down next week. Right, my dad said. He picked up his wine glass and swirled the red liquid. He didn't drink, he just watched it moving in the glass. Here's the thing, Sloan, he said. He didn't look at me, he looked at the centerpiece on the table. Your mother and I have been looking at the numbers, and we made an executive decision. My heart stopped. I knew what was coming. I could feel it in the air pressure of the room. Mia's wedding is complex, my dad continued. It's a destination event. There are flights, hotels, the venue in Cancun. It's very expensive, much more expensive than we anticipated. Okay, I said slowly, but that's Mia's wedding. We want to make sure it's done right, my mom chimed in. Her voice was high and tight. We have family coming from all over. It reflects on us. It has to be perfect. So, my dad said, finally looking at me, his eyes were flat. We decided to consolidate the funds. Consolidate, I asked. We gave your wedding fund to your sister, he said. He said it so simply. Like he was saying, we passed the salt to your sister. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands went cold. You what? I whispered. We gave the $20,000 from Grandma to Mia, he repeated, a little louder this time as if I was deaf. Adding it to her share gives her $40,000. That covers the venue and the catering in Cancun. It was the only way to make the numbers work. I looked at Mia. She was cutting her roast beef. She was smiling. A small, satisfied smirk played on her lips. She didn't look ashamed. She looked like she had won a game. But that was my money, I said. My voice was shaking. Grandma left that for me. It was in the will. Technically, it was left to us to distribute, my dad said, waving his hand dismissively. Grandma wanted you girls to be happy, and Mia, well, Mia needs a specific kind of wedding to be happy. You know how she is, and what about me? I asked. Don't I deserve to be happy? My mom sighed. She looked annoyed. Sloan, be realistic. You're marrying Grant. She gestured vaguely at him across the table. You guys are simple. You're low maintenance. You've always been fine with less. You don't need a big showy wedding. You can do something in a backyard or a courthouse. It suits you better. It suits me better to have nothing, I asked. Tears were burning my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. It's not nothing, my dad said sternly. We raised you, we fed you, don't be ungrateful. Your sister needs help, she's not as resourceful as you. You've always been the strong one, you can figure this out, Mia can't. There it was, the truth I had been running from my whole life. My strength was my punishment. Because I worked hard, because I didn't complain, they felt justified in giving me nothing. They were penalizing me for being a good daughter. So you stole from me, I said, the word hung in the air. Stole. Watch your tone, my dad snapped, his face turned red. It is our money, we decide where it goes. And we decided Mia deserves it more right now, end of discussion. He picked up his fork and stabbed a piece of potato. He started eating. He actually started eating. As if he hadn't just reached into my chest and ripped out the last bit of hope I had for this family. I sat there, frozen. I felt small. I felt invisible. I felt like the 12-year-old girl eating cereal alone on her birthday. I was about to stand up. I was about to just leave silently like I always did. I was about to retreat and disappear. But then Grant moved. He didn't shift nervously. He didn't look down. He stood up. The chair scraped loudly against the hardwood floor. It was a harsh, violent sound in the quiet room. Everyone stopped eating. My dad looked up annoyed. Where are you going, Grant? Bathroom is down the hall. Grant didn't answer. He walked around the table. He didn't look at my parents. He walked until he was standing right behind my chair. He put both hands on my shoulders. His grip was firm, grounding. Then he looked at my father. Grant's face was different. The soft, kind look was gone. His eyes were hard. His jaw was set. He looked dangerous. You didn't just steal money, Grant said. His voice was low, but it carried perfectly in the silence. You stole her trust, my dad laughed. It was a dry, mocking laugh. Excuse me, sit down, son. This is a family matter. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me, Grant said, because Sloan is my family now. You just abdicated that role. Abdicated, my mom blinked. What are you talking about? You're being dramatic. It's just money. Sloan will figure it out. She always does. She shouldn't have to, Grant said. He reached into the inner pocket of his jacket. He pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen a few times and then turned the phone around so my father could see it. Do you know what this is? Grant asked. My dad squinted at the screen. It's a bank account balance I don't understand. Read the number, Grant commanded, not asked, commanded. My dad leaned in. His eyes widened. He pulled his glasses off and put them back on. He looked at the phone, then at Grant, then back at the phone. That says 8 figures, my dad stammered. Is this a joke? Is this a fake app? It's not a joke, Grant said coldly. He put the phone back in his pocket. I sold my company 3 years ago. I have more money than everyone in this room combined times 10. The silence that followed was heavy, heavy and suffocating. Mia dropped her fork. It clattered against the china. My mom's mouth fell open. But, my mom stammered, but you drive that old car, you dress like a lumberjack. I dress like this because I don't need to impress people like you, Grant said. I wanted to know if Sloan loved me for me. She does. She's the only honest person at this table. He looked down at me. His eyes softened for a second. I was going to pay for our wedding, Eric. I was going to pay for everything. I was going to buy Sloan a house. I was going to take care of her parents as they got older. I was going to change your lives. He looked back at my father. The ice returned. But now I see who you are. You punish her for being good. You take from her to feed her sister's vanity. You look at your daughter and you see a bank account to raid, not a person to love. My dad was pale. He looked like he was going to be sick. He realized what he had just lost. He realized he had bet on the wrong horse. Grant, wait, my dad said, his voice trembling. We didn't know. We can fix this. It was just a misunderstanding. We can. No, Grant cut him off. It wasn't a misunderstanding. You told her she didn't deserve a real wedding. You told her she didn't matter. Grant leaned forward, placing his hands on the table, leaning into my father's face. I want you to return that money, Grant said. Every cent, the $20,000 I wanted in Sloane's account by tomorrow morning. But we gave it to the venue in Cancun, Mia whined. It's non-refundable. Grant turned his head slowly to look at Mia. She shrank back in her chair. I don't care, Grant said. Cancel the venue, sell your car, I don't care how you get it. But if that money isn't in Sloane's account by 9 a.m. tomorrow, I will call every local paper and tell them exactly how the Harper family treats their children. I will expose you to your friends, your church, and your clients. He stood up straight. Come on, Sloane, he said to me. We're leaving. I stood up. My legs felt shaky, but my heart felt lighter than it had in 20 years. I looked at my parents one last time. They looked small, they looked pathetic, and for the first time I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen. I grabbed Grant's hand. Let's go. Walking out of that dining room felt like walking out of a burning building. The air outside was cool and crisp. It had started to drizzle, a light rain that felt clean against my flushed skin. Grant didn't let go of my hand until we reached the car. He opened the passenger door for me, something he always did, regardless of whether he was driving a rusty Toyota or a luxury sedan. When he got into the driver's seat, he didn't start the car immediately. He just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, his knuckles white. He was breathing hard, trying to control his anger. I'm sorry, he said, his voice rough. I didn't mean to lose my temper like that. But seeing how casually they hurt you, it broke something in me. I reached over and covered his hand with mine. Don't apologize, I whispered. Nobody has ever stood up for me like that in my entire life. Nobody? He looked at me, and the anger in his eyes melted into sadness. That's the problem, Sloane. You shouldn't have had to wait 28 years for someone to tell your parents they were wrong. He started the car and we drove away. We didn't go straight home. We drove in silence for a while, the windshield wipers keeping a steady rhythm. The silence wasn't awkward, it was heavy with realization. My phone started buzzing 5 minutes down the road. Buzz, buzz, buzz. It was my mother, then my father, then Mia. I looked at the screen, watching the names flash by. Mom calling, Dad calling, Mia calling. Don't answer it, Grant said softly. Let them sit in it, let them panic. I turned the phone off. We stopped at a small park near the highway. It was empty because of the rain. We sat on a bench under a large oak tree that kept us mostly dry. What happens now? I asked. Grant looked out at the wet grass. Now we wait. We wait to see if they respect you enough to fix it. I gave them a deadline, 9 a.m. Do you think they'll do it? I asked. They spent the money, Grant. Mia said it was non-refundable. They will find a way, Grant said grimly. People like your parents, they care about two things, money and reputation. I threatened both. They are terrified right now, not because they hurt you, but because they realized they lost the rich son-in-law lottery before they even bought a ticket. He turned to me. But Sloane, I need to ask you something. If they return the money, do you want a relationship with them? Or are you done? I thought about it. I thought about the years of neglect, the birthday donut, the forgotten graduations. The way my dad looked at me when he said, she deserves it more. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the fundamental belief that I was less than. Could that ever be fixed? Could they ever unsay those words? I don't know, I admitted. I feel like I just woke up from a long coma, and I'm realizing that the people I loved were the ones keeping me asleep. Take your time, Grant said. You have all the power now. They need you, you don't need them. That night, we ordered pizza and sat on the floor of our apartment. We didn't talk about wedding planning, we didn't talk about money, we just existed together. At 10 p.m., my landline rang. We never used the landline, only my parents had that number. Grant looked at me. Do you want to take it? I shook my head. The answering machine beeped. My dad's voice filled the room. He sounded different, shaky, desperate. Sloane, it's Dad. Look, we are working on the transfer. We're moving some things around. Mia is upset, but we're handling it. Please call us back. We didn't know about Grant's situation. We would have handled things differently if we knew. We just want everyone to be happy. Call me. I stared at the machine. Did you hear that? I said, looking at Grant. He said we would have handled things differently if we knew. Grant nodded slowly. Translation. If we knew you were rich, we would have treated you with respect. It was the final nail in the coffin. They weren't sorry they hurt me. They were sorry they got caught treating a millionaire's wife like garbage. I'm not calling them back, I said. Good, Grant said. Get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a new day. The next morning at 8:55 a.m., I logged into my bank account. I refreshed the page. Balance $4,200. I waited. 8:58 a.m., 8:59 a.m. At exactly 9 a.m., the screen flickered. Deposit received, $20,000. They had done it. They had returned the money. I stared at the number. It was just numbers on a screen. It didn't fix the hole in my chest. It didn't give me back my childhood, but it was justice. I turned to Grant, who was drinking coffee at the kitchen table. It's there, I said. He nodded. He didn't smile. Good. Now what do you want to do with it? I looked at the money. It felt dirty. It felt like hush money. If I spent it on my wedding, every flower and every napkin would remind me of how hard I had to fight to get it. It would remind me of Mia's smirk and my dad's dismissal. I didn't want their money anymore, I wanted my dignity. I have an idea, I said. 2 days later, I drove back to my parents' house, alone. Grant wanted to come, but I told him no. I need to do this by myself, I said. He stood up for me at the table. Now I need to stand up for myself. I pulled into the driveway. Mia's car was there again, of course. I walked into the house without knocking. They were in the living room. My mom was crying on the sofa. Mia was pacing, looking furious. My dad was sitting in his armchair, staring at the floor. When I walked in, they all froze. "Sloan," my mom cried, jumping up. She wiped her eyes. "Oh, thank God. Did you get the money? We sent it. We had to cash out a bond and, well, Mia had to cancel the resort. We lost the deposit. It's a mess. But we did it. I got it," I said calmly. I didn't move further into the room. I stayed by the doorway. "Good," my dad said, standing up. He tried to put on his fatherly face, but it cracked. "Now, let's put this behind us. We can start over. Bring Grant over for dinner this weekend. We can talk about investments. Maybe he can give Chad some advice." I almost laughed. It was so predictable. They wanted access. They wanted proximity to the money. "No," I said. "What do you mean no?" Mia snapped. "I just lost my dream wedding because of you. I have to get married at a local hotel now. It's humiliating. The least you can do is help us out." I looked at my sister. Really looked at her. She was beautiful, yes, but she was hollow. She had never been told no in her entire life, and now that she was hearing it, she was crumbling. "You didn't lose your wedding because of me, Mia," I said. "You lost it because you felt entitled to money that wasn't yours. You were happy to steal from me as long as I didn't notice." "It wasn't stealing," she screamed. "We're sisters. We're supposed to share. Sharing is voluntary," I said. "Taking is theft." I turned to my parents. "I'm not here to argue," I said. "I'm here to tell you why I'm leaving." "Leaving?" my mom asked. "Sloan, don't be dramatic. You're not going anywhere." "I am," I said. "I'm done. For 28 years I have tried to be the perfect daughter. I got good grades, I never got in trouble, I paid my own way, I asked for nothing, and I thought that if I was good enough you would finally love me as much as you love Mia." My voice shook, but I forced myself to continue. "But Sunday night I realized the truth. You don't love me less because I'm bad, you love me less because I'm easy, you take me for granted because I'm strong. You used my resilience as an excuse to neglect me." "That's not true," my dad said weakly. "We love you both the same." "No, you don't," I said. "You gave her a car, you gave me a pat on the back, you paid for her college. You gave me debt, you gave her my wedding fund, you gave me nothing." I took a deep breath. "You used the word invisible to describe me my whole life. Sloan is invisible, she's fine. But you used invisible to mean unimportant. You thought I wouldn't fight back because I never have. You thought I was weak because I was quiet." I stepped closer to them. "But I'm not weak, I'm a survivor, and I'm done surviving this family." "Sloan, please," my mom sobbed. "We can fix this, we can be better. Grant has opened our eyes." "Grant didn't open your eyes," I said. "Grant's bank account opened your eyes. If he was still poor, you would still be stealing from me. That is the reality." I reached into my purse and pulled out a check. "Here," I said. I placed it on the coffee table. "What is this?" my dad asked, looking down at it. "It's the $20,000, I said. They looked confused. Mia stopped pacing. "You're giving it back?" Mia asked, hope lighting up her eyes. "So I can have the Cancun wedding?" "No," I said. "Read the payee." My dad picked up the check. His hands were trembling. "Pay to the order of the First Generation Scholarship Fund," he read. "I donated it," I said. "I donated all of it, in your names, well, in Grandma's name. You gave away $20,000, my dad whispered. He looked like he was in physical pain. "Are you insane?" "I don't want your money," I said. "I never did. I wanted fairness. Since I can't have that, I'm giving the money to kids who actually need it. Kids who have to work 2 jobs to get through college because their parents won't help them. Kids like I was." I looked at Mia. "You can have your wedding, Mia, but you'll have to pay for it yourself. Welcome to the real world." I turned to the door. "Sloan, wait," my mom cried. "If you walk out now, what do we tell people? What about Christmas? What about the family?" I stopped and looked back over my shoulder. "Tell them the truth," I said. "Tell them you bet on the wrong daughter, or tell them nothing. I don't care anymore. I'm finally free." I walked out the door. I didn't slam it. I just closed it firmly. I got into my car. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was adrenaline. It was the feeling of a heavy weight being lifted off my shoulders after 3 decades. I drove home. I didn't cry. I turned on the radio and sang along to a song I didn't even know. When I got back to the apartment, Grant was waiting on the porch. He stood up when he saw me. He looked worried. "Are you okay?" he asked as I walked up the steps. I looked at him. "My fiancé, my partner, my real family. I'm better than okay," I said. "I'm invisible no more." He hugged me, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. The weeks after I walked out of my parents' house were quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet than I was used to. Before, the quiet felt lonely. It felt like I was waiting for someone to notice me. Now the quiet felt like protection. It felt like a wall I had built around myself, a wall that no insults or neglect could get through. My parents didn't give up immediately. They panicked. The day after I dropped off the check, my phone blew up. 17 missed calls from my mom, 12 from my dad, a long, rambling text from Mia saying I was selfish and ruining the family image. They weren't calling to apologize. They were calling because I had taken control. I had taken their money they valued more than me, and I had given it away to strangers. To them, that was the ultimate sin. I didn't answer. I didn't text back. I blocked their numbers. It was a strange feeling, pressing that block contact button. My thumb hovered over the screen for a long time. A part of me, the little girl who just wanted her dad to be proud of her, felt guilty. "But they're your family," a voice in my head whispered. Then I looked at Grant. He was sitting on our worn-out couch reading a book. He looked up and smiled at me. He loved me when I had nothing. He defended me when I was attacked. That was family. I pressed the button. Block, block, block. 3 weeks later, I received a letter in the mail. It was a thick envelope with the logo of the First Generation Scholarship Fund. I opened it at the kitchen table. "Dear Miss Harper, we are writing to thank you for your incredibly generous donation of $20,000. Your gift will fund full tuition for 2 students this semester, students who are the first in their families to attend college and who are working multiple jobs to support themselves. Because of you, a young woman named Sarah, who works night shifts at a diner to pay for nursing school, will not have to drop out this year. You have changed lives." I read the letter twice. I started to cry. These were the tears I had been holding back for years. I cried for Sarah, whoever she was. I cried because I knew exactly how tired she was. I knew the fear of looking at a tuition bill and seeing a number you couldn't pay. My parents had used that money to control me. They had used it to play favorites. But now that same money was freedom for someone else. I framed the letter. I hung it in our hallway. It was better than any wedding gift I could have received. Meanwhile, I heard through the grapevine an aunt who I hadn't blocked yet about the fallout at home. It was bad. Mia had to cancel her Cancun wedding. The deposit was gone. She was furious. She ended up booking a reception hall at a local Holiday Inn. It wasn't a bad venue, but for someone like Mia who wanted a fairy tale, it was a nightmare. My parents were embarrassed. They had already told their friends about the destination wedding. Now they had to backtrack. They had to explain why it changed. Rumors started flying. People started asking questions. Why isn't Sloane involved? Why did Grant yell at Eric at dinner? Is it true Sloane donated her inheritance? For the first time, the perfect family image was cracking, and I wasn't there to fix it with my silence. I wasn't there to smile and pretend everything was fine. I was gone. One evening, Grant came home with a bottle of wine. "What's this for?" I asked. "To celebrate," he said. "I just got off the phone with my lawyer. He finalized the trust for your parents." I froze. "The trust, Grant, I told you I don't want to give them anything." "I know," he said, pouring 2 glasses. "That's why the trust is locked. They can't touch a dime of my money. I made sure of it. If something happens to me or to us, that money goes to charity. Your parents will never see a cent of the fortune they tried to marry into." He took a sip. "But," he added, "I did set up a small fund for your nieces or nephews, if Mia has kids, for their education, directly to the school, because kids shouldn't suffer for their parents' mistakes." I looked at him with so much love I thought my heart would burst. He was tough, but he was good. He broke the cycle. "You're amazing," I said. "No," he said, kissing my forehead. "I'm just the guy lucky enough to stand next to you." We went back to planning our wedding, but this time it was peaceful. There were no arguments about flowers, no competition, just us. We decided not to invite my parents. It was the hardest decision of my life, but also the most necessary. Inviting them would mean opening the door to their drama. It would mean spending my wedding day worrying about what my mom would say about my dress, or if my dad would make a passive-aggressive toast. 6 months later, October arrived. The vineyard was painted in shades of gold and deep red. The air was crisp, smelling of grapes and earth. It was exactly what I had wanted. We didn't spend a fortune, even though we could have. We kept it small, 50 guests, just the people who actually knew us. Grant's friends from the tech world, who were surprisingly down-to-earth, and my friends from college and work. I got ready in a small cottage on the property. My best friend Jenna helped me zip up my dress. It wasn't a Vera Wang. It was a simple, elegant silk gown I found at a local bridal shop. It didn't cost $12,000. It cost $800, and I felt like a queen in it. "You look breathtaking," Jenna said, adjusting my veil. "How do you feel?" "Calm," I said, and I meant it. Usually big life events made me anxious because I was waiting for the criticism. I was waiting for my mom to say, "Fix your hair," or my dad to check his watch. But they weren't here. The silence they left behind was filled with love from the people who chose to be there. At 4 p.m. the music started, an acoustic guitar. Simple, I walked out of the cottage. I had decided to walk myself down the aisle. Some people thought it was sad. Where is her father? They might whisper, but I didn't see it that way. I walked alone because I had got myself here. I had walked through the neglect, the loneliness, and the doubt. I had survived on my own 2 feet. Walking down the aisle alone wasn't an admission of abandonment, it was a statement of strength. I saw Grant waiting for me under an arch of autumn leaves. He was wearing a dark suit, but he still looked like Grant. His eyes were wet. When I reached him, he took my hand. His grip was warm and solid. "Hi," he whispered. "Hi," I smiled. The ceremony was short. We wrote our own vows. "Sloane," Grant said, his voice cracking slightly, "you are the strongest person I know. You taught me that value isn't found in a bank account, but in character. You are my home, and I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you never feel invisible again." I wiped a tear from my cheek. "Grant," I said, "you saw me when no one else did. You loved me when I had nothing to offer but myself. I promised to stand by you, to build a life of truth with you, and to never let the world make us cold. I wanted peace, so I chose peace." We kissed. The small crowd cheered. It was a sound of pure joy. The reception was magical. We ate pasta and drank wine from the vineyard. We danced under string lights as the sun went down. Around 8 p.m., I went to the bathroom to freshen up. I pulled my phone out of my purse to check the time. There was a text message from Mia. I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered over the notification. "Hey Sloane, Dad is crying in the kitchen. Mom is a mess." I wanted to say congrats, and I guess I'm sorry for everything. It feels wrong that you're not here. Can we fix this? I read the words. Can we fix this? 6 months ago, I would have jumped at this text. I would have called her immediately. I would have tried to fix it. I would have apologized for things I didn't do just to keep the peace. But I read the text again. Dad is crying. Mom is a mess. Even in her apology, it was about them. It was about their pain, their regret, their discomfort. It wasn't about my happiness. She didn't ask if the wedding was beautiful. She didn't say she was happy for me. She just wanted me to come back and fix their feelings. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked happy. My eyes were bright. My shoulders were relaxed. I realized that if I replied, I would be inviting the chaos back in. I would be stepping back into the role of the fixer, the emotional janitor who cleaned up everyone else's messes. I wasn't that person anymore. I turned off the screen. I didn't reply. I put the phone back in my purse. I walked back out to the dance floor. Grant was waiting for me. He held out his hand. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Everything is perfect," I said. I took his hand and we danced. Life moves fast when you cut out the dead weight. 2 years have passed since the wedding. Grant and I bought a house. It's not a mansion. We could have afforded one, but we didn't want it. We bought a beautiful, historic farmhouse with a big porch and a lot of land. We have a garden. Grant grows tomatoes. I grow flowers, peonies actually. Not because Mia wanted them, but because I like them. We have a dog, a golden retriever named Buster, who sleeps on the rug in front of the fire. I still work. I started my own marketing consultancy. I don't need the money, but I love the work. I love building things. Grant invests in startups that help underprivileged kids learn to code. He uses his money to build ladders for people who are stuck in holes, just like he was. We are happy. It is a quiet, boring, wonderful happiness. I haven't seen my parents in 2 years. I hear things occasionally. I know Mia got married at the Holiday Inn. I heard she and Chad are struggling financially because they bought a house they couldn't afford to keep up appearances. I heard my dad retired early because of stress. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if I was too harsh. I wonder if I should have forgiven them. People always say, family is everything. They say, you only get one mother. But then I look at my life, I look at the peace in my home, I look at the way Grant looks at me with total respect. I look at the scholarship letter still hanging in my hallway, and I realize that forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. I have forgiven them, I have let go of the anger, I don't wake up hating them, I don't wish them harm, I hope they are okay, but I also know that I cannot have them in my life because some people are like fire. You can forgive the fire for burning you, it's just its nature, but you don't stick your hand back into the flame. I learned that being the invisible child was actually my superpower. Because they ignored me, I learned to be self-sufficient. Because they didn't help me, I learned to solve my own problems. Because they didn't see me, I learned to see everything. I saw the truth about people. I saw who Grant really was when he was wearing flannel and driving a rust bucket. If I had been the golden child, spoiled and entitled like Mia, I might have missed him. I might have looked at his car and turned away. My neglect saved me. It led me to the love of my life, so this is my message to you. If you are reading this and you are the one in the family who is always forgotten, if you are the one who buys your own car while your sibling gets a new one, if you are the one who fixes everyone's problems but has to suffer alone, listen to me. You are not broken, you are being forged. They are teaching you how to survive without them. They are accidentally giving you the keys to your own freedom. It hurts right now. I know it does. It hurts to feel like you don't matter. But one day you will stand up, you will find your voice, you will find your Grant, whether that is a partner, a passion, or just your own self-respect. And when that day comes, do not be afraid to walk away. Do not be afraid to close the door. Invisible children grow up to be powerful adults. We learn to stand alone until we choose who stands beside us. I chose peace, I chose respect, and I finally chose myself.